Comics and whiskey, comics and whiskey. It is comics and whiskey. Tonight's whiskey is a whiskey called Hellcat Maggie, which is pretty good. Hellcat Maggie was a chick from 5 Points back in the day in New York, if you know anything about like gangs in New York. This whiskey is actually pretty smooth. It has, for lack of a better term, it's got a little bit of a pedestrian middle to it. The end isn't too harsh. You're not going to get that horse kick from any kind of a bitterness or backbite. But it goes down pretty smooth. I do enjoy it. They don't sell it everywhere. So if you can find it, I suggest picking up a bottle. It's one of the cheaper Irish whiskeys you're going to be able to find. So I don't know what you're drinking, but before we kick this off officially, let's take a sip. Oh, yum, yum. All right. We're not going to go back and recap everything that's happened through issues 1 through 6 because it is just too much shit. So, if you haven't seen those, go back and read them or check out the episodes of Comics and Whiskey, and you'll be caught up with the rest of us. So let's get going. So, one thing I already like about this is we know Mysterio is the one who's been behind all the shit that Daredevil's been going through, and because that was unveiled in the last issue. And here he's caught in the fishbowl of the head. I think it's kind of comical that that Mysterio's giving the 2 thumbs up. So this is actually pretty cool. I like the way that they started this. So you know how the bad guys, like when they're unveiling their big plan and all that, they always say like, you know, they always go over like everything. And then you're going to get that here. But in the beginning, Mysterio's like, look, if you were looking for some action, you're pretty much SOL because I'm going to tell you about my history and how we ended up here. And again, this is written by Kevin Smith, so this is the last part of the story arc. So Mysterio's like, sit down, take a seat, we're going to tell you what's up. And then Daredevil's like, I don't think so, man. Through the fishbowl, his hands are up, you see the fist coming at him, and he just gets socked. Now, we know that's not going to hurt, but it's still pretty funny. And it shuts him up, so we don't have to listen to all this shit. Daredevil's looking for the baby, and Mysterio is basically saying like, look, if you want to see the baby alive, then you're just going to have to shut up and listen. He then, bitch slaps him back a little bit and says that it's great that you're asking about the kid, but here's the deal. This kid has been locked in a room, and ever since you came up here, and you got into my little sanctum here, the kid has only had 20 minutes of air. And since you've been trying to beat me up, whatever, now the kid's down to 15. So if you want to know about the kid or you want to know where the kid is at, you're going to shut up and listen. Which is exactly what Daredevil does. So Mysterio decides to take him on a little walk, and he basically breaks down everything about himself and what he did and basically why. He begins to tell him that he was a special effects guy who would put, Spielberg and I think Rick something, I forgot what the guy's name was, but you see right here he's referencing Spielberg and Star Wars and Terminator, that he was such a good special effects person that he did stuff that would blow your mind. And he's talking right here about how he dropped a Sphinx in the middle of Times Square and all this other stuff. But no matter how hard he tried or the illusions that he brought to the forefront, he was always considered like he didn't get the notoriety that he wanted. So he decided to take the special effects off the movies and then bring them to people on a 1-for-1 basis, which is exactly what he did. But he couldn't. He was always like a second string villain too. It was like all his life he's been second string. And here he talks about how the Fantastic Four beat him up, and then here it's Spider-Man. Oops. Here it's Spider-Man and all this other stuff. And Spider-Man's fought Mysterio a lot. At the bottom, he references how he joined the Sinister Six, and that was really just a pathetic group of 6 idiots who never beat anybody. So he continues to tell him about that stuff, and he says, this is how I became kind of the bad egg that I am. He goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, look, not only do you have a tumor, but you also have lung cancer, so congratulations. If you had one more bad thing, it would be the trifecta. So he gets some advice from a preacher who says, seek God and ye shall find the peace that you want. So he goes back to his lab and he starts thinking about what he can do, and he realizes that Mysterio is not the kind of person who's going to just lay down and die for this disease, but he wanted to have like one swan song, one final play, one like grand tragedy to unveil to make his death more, cinematic. Now, he wanted to, in doing so, he wanted to get his all-time worst enemy, which was Spider-Man, and have him be a part of that swan song, but in this part, Spider-Man was like a clone or something. I don't know exactly what Spider-Man was doing, but he wasn't available to get beat up, so he decided, I'll go for another second-string person, Daredevil, because outside of Hell's Kitchen, no one really knows who Daredevil is. Now, I like this right here. This is pretty cool. It kind of has a Sauron-esque feel about it, but this art is pretty cool. I don't know what Daredevil's doing, but I guess that's when they clashed before. So he goes to the Kingpin and says, hey, tell me everything you know about Daredevil. And Daredevil's, Kingpin's like, I don't think so. But then Mysterio drops a milli on the desk, and all of a sudden, what does he tell Mysterio about Daredevil? How about everything? Everything. We got Bullseye here, we got Karen Page, we got Armored Daredevil, we got Matt, the mom, just everything about him. So now he enters into this swan song with all kinds of knowledge. Now, hold on, let's take a drink real quick. It's pretty smooth. If you haven't tried Hellcat Maggie, I strongly suggest you do. I'm drinking this straight tonight. Anyways, he goes back to the Bible, and he starts looking for some themes. Well, in that theme, he finds the girl with the baby, if you remember from the first issue. He drugs her and basically artificially inseminates her. So she gets the kid, and she thinks, holy shit, it's divine intervention or whatever. It's Jesus come back and born in me or whatever. So that's how she got pregnant. Artificial insemination. Then he threw some hallucinogens at her, and she saw the angels that we saw also in the first issue. And then, of course, he hired some thugs to kill her parents. Now, if you remember, Foggy took that older rich client out on a date, and then she turned into a monster and attacked him right here, and then she threw herself out a window. Basically, what he's saying is that chick was an actress, and she was also addicted to drugs, so he would just let her shoot up every once in a while, and she just agreed to do this for him, and then she ended up, throwing herself out a window and dying. If you remember this guy, he was also a previously famous actor, and he basically, after serving his role, just got choked out and died. So all the things that happened in the earlier issues are all being explained, because when you read about them, like the way that they were unveiled, you're like, what the hell is going on here? But now he's basically going back saying, this is how I did this, and this is how I did that, and so it all is beginning to make more sense. Now, there was an incident at the hospital, and he basically says, I have no idea how that went down, but I did hire Bullseye, and Bullseye did kill your chick, and I'm not necessarily losing any sleep over that. And about that, we'll go back a page real quick. Or was she maybe 2 pages? Nope. Okay. Well, right somewhere around here. Oh, right here. But if you remember correctly, she was under the impression that she was HIV positive. Well, apparently it hired a doctor, and the doctor told her that, but she actually wasn't HIV positive, because if you remember, I kept asking myself, how the hell does Daredevil not have it if she does? Because we know that those two got naked and knocked some boots or whatever. Turns out she may not have been HIV positive, which if she wasn't was a miracle into itself. Like, it's more believable that Jesus would have been born in that little Mexican chick than she would not actually be HIV positive. But she's dead now, so it doesn't matter. So basically he gets done telling the story, and this guy, if you remember last issue, got knocked out. He was the one that had the shitty haircut, and Mysterio takes the gun and shoots him, and then shoots everybody else, and Daredevil's like, what the hell? But then Mysterio tells him, hey brother, like, these people, this isn't for viewers, and all these people knew that you were Daredevil, so I kind of did you a favor. But then Daredevil says, he says, you want to know about secrets? Check this out. Ever since you've been yapping nonstop about your history and what you did to me, I've been listening for the battery in your suit, and I think I found it. So he throws a silver bullet, whacks the dude in the wrist right there, and then I love this kick to the face, which just cracks his fishbowl and just jacks him up. So he looks at his face, and the guy kind of looks like, Darth Vader from Return of the Jedi. But then Daredevil picks him up and says, tell me where the baby's at. And Mysterio says, look, this is it. This is the swan song. I'm dying. Just kill me. And, Daredevil's not going to. But I got to say real quick, this is cool. I love this picture right here. The big jaw, and he's all, whatever. Daredevil says, you know what? I'm not going to kill you, man. I'm not going to give you that satisfaction because you're basically a joke and a fraud. And then Mysterio says, like, well, wait a second, I'm a fraud. I freaking ruined your life. Like, I broke you. And Daredevil's like, no, man, you're just a bunch of old cliches. And then he begins to tell him, like, back in the day, you did the same supernatural shit with J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man. I fought the Kingpin, and the Kingpin basically took away my life before, and you're not close to him. He says you're a hack, you're a has-been, you're like a cardboard cutout of things that are actual real, and you're basically nothing. He says your whole existence is counterfeit, and you're not original. So then he tells him at the bottom here, like, always he thinks to himself, I may not have killed him, but I definitely took his life. Now tell me, where's the kid? And you can see that Mysterio's pretty shattered here. And I like how Daredevil's in the back. It's pretty cool. So he opens up the door and boom, here's the baby. And Mysterio is still in the the other room with all the smoke and stuff like that. Daredevil grabs the kid and says, okay, good, he's still alive. Meanwhile, Mysterio grabs a gun and he's like, you know what, man? You might not want to look away because this is about to go down. Daredevil, interestingly enough, he says, his heart's racing, but I don't flinch because he knows where that bullet's headed. And somehow he knows that it's not headed towards him. And you can see right here, he kills himself in the middle. And of course, Daredevil's like, that's that's about what I expected. Eventually, all these guys are pussies when you make them face what they are. And this is what they end up doing. It's like they kill themselves. And then at the bottom here, he basically says, that the baby doesn't shed a single tear after the big, gunshot. And he says, neither do I. And he walks out. And that's a pretty good way to end this with Mysterio, killing himself. And I mean, this whole splash page of him just walking out. All right, one quick drink. Finish that off real quick. So that wraps up the Kevin Smith Guardian Devil storyline in Daredevil. And that also wraps up Daredevil. Outstanding story. Well written, one of the best storylines I've ever read. It was so fucking fantastic that I'm really hoping. I don't know if Kevin Smith does comics on a regular basis or if he writes regularly for anyone's strip, but even if it wasn't a character that I liked, I would probably pick up that strip because this story was awesome and the way they tied it up at the end was believable and just fucking kick ass. That and the art blew me away. One of my favorite story arcs of all time. Okay, so that's gonna wrap it up for this time. We're not gonna wait so long to do another issue of this or episode of this. I think we're gonna jump ship from Marvel and we're probably gonna do Hack Slash because October's coming up and that's a good Halloween strip. Anyways, enjoy your whiskey, enjoy your comics. Thanks for reading and drinking along with me. We're gonna keep knocking these out. Again, I don't care if anybody listens. I mean, eventually somebody may not, whatever. I just have fun doing them. And if you have fun listening to them, then fantastic. All right, be safe, take care, and I will see you on the flippity flop.